If you're applying for scholarships or admissions or academic opportunities with a resume, you're already off track. I am a Mastercard Foundation Scholar alumni, so I have been there. And so if you're serious about landing that scholarship or getting that admission, make sure you watch this video to the end because your personal statements or essays are just one piece of the application puzzle. In this video, I'll be showing you how to create an academic CV and the mistakes that you should avoid when creating one. I would also be showing you what you should and should not include. I would show you how you can tailor your CV based on the country that you're going to, especially if you're applying to North America or Europe. You want to be using the CV format that's applicable to the different regions. So first of all, what is an academic CV and why does it matter? So an academic CV is a comprehensive overview of your educational background, your achievements, your honors, awards, research experience, teaching experience, publications, volunteer history. I really like this definition from the University of British Columbia, and it says this is a document intended to highlight education, research, and scholarly accomplishments in order to showcase your academic training and expertise. It can be used at both the undergraduate and graduate level to apply for graduate programs, research positions, scholarships, grants, teaching assistantships, postdocs, and industry-based roles that require research and or subject matter expertise. So as you can see from that definition, it is a document that is highly valuable in the academic environment. Basically, admissions and scholarship committees use this academic CV to evaluate your fit for the program, assess both your leadership and research potential, and see how your overall background fits in with the opportunity. And usually, as a general rule, academic CVs do not usually have like length restrictions like resumes. So it gives you the opportunity to actually showcase different achievements all through your career that are relevant. But one hack I should tell you that has really been helpful for me is whenever you're applying to any country or particular school, always visit that particular school website to see the resources that they have on CVs. Honestly, this is a life-saving hack because it means that you're able to tailor your CV to that particular country or to that particular school that you're applying to. So whatever school that you're applying to, just write out the name and you could write things around like CV guidance or academic CV samples and you would see search results. So always visit that school's website to see the resources and most importantly, the samples that they have, the tips and general guidance that they expect students to follow. So let's talk about the sections that you should include in your academic CV. I'll be sharing with you the CV that I used then to apply for admission to UBC. And in the description of this video, I would also be including the link to the current samples that UBC currently offers. So of course, the first section is your personal information where you have your name, LinkedIn information, email, and country. Please do not include details like your date of birth, sex, all of that demographic information. It is not needed. The next section is the academic background or the education section. Of course, you want to include the degrees you have obtained, the institutions you have attended, as well as your CGP. If you have a really high CGP, this is the place you should include it. And in some cases, you can also include your undergraduate thesis title. Following that, I usually like to include my academic honors or achievement. So if you look at what I'm sharing currently, you would see that I've listed all of the academic honors I've, received. So like best graduate students, any scholarship that I've won previously, or any basically recognitions that I've received in the academic environment. Something else I like to include is an additional training section. And this is because if I've done any relevant coursework or courses or certifications that are outside of my official degree certificate, this is a place I like to highlight them. So this is a place to really showcase higher level courses or certifications that you've done that are in line with your area or field of study. If you're applying for a research master's or like a PhD, often generally graduate program, I usually advise you distinguish between like research experience, if you have specific research experience, versus general work experience. If you do have relevant research experience, include it, like the project supervisors, what the outcome of that particular research was. And under that, that is where I usually like to talk about like what research publications I've had. Just immediately after like highlighting your research experience, it's a good practice that you could highlight your research publications including any conferences attended. So like if you've presented at any conferences, both oral or poster presentations. And then there's a section on work experiences. And so this is where you want to really highlight relevant experiences. And again, remember you're using language that shows achievement. You're not just listing your job responsibilities. And so because you're applying to graduate program, make sure that you're reflecting like the skills that are necessary for that graduate program or the knowledge and competencies that are important for that graduate program. Very important section is your volunteering and community service experience. Especially if you're applying for scholarships, of course, they want well-rounded students. They don't just want someone who's academically talented. So when you have engaged in various community service or volunteering roles, this is where you would highlight them. And if you notice, like this is again the space where I highlighted all of my community and volunteering work. So because I had all of this here, remember in my previous video when I was describing my essays, I did not need to write all of these activities in my essays. I just selected the ones I wanted to highlight. So this is why an academic CV is really important because then you can actually showcase all of your community and volunteering that you've done. In my own CV, I've also included a section on like leadership experience, just because again, I wanted to highlight all of the different like leadership roles I've held, both in the academic and non-academic environment. Again, remember you're trying to showcase your leadership potential as well when you're applying for graduate school or like associated scholarships. So I feel this is a very good section to have. I usually have a section on professional membership and associations. So if you belong to any professional bodies or membership of any associations, this is also a place to include it because it also shows that you're part of a professional community, you're passionate about networking with others, and basically passionate about like, improving yourself professionally. I usually also have a section on like skills or my skill profile. And that's because this is a good place to highlight all of the skills that you have. So like from things around like scientific writing or other forms of data analysis and interpretation. Again, it's very important, especially like, if your graduate program requires using certain tools, let's say like SPSS, SAS, Python, or R, this is a place where you can showcase all of these skills and tools that you know how to use and the different methodologies that you know. When you're applying to schools in Europe, so if you're applying for programs like that, Erasmus Mundus, you should be using a Europass CV. That's the commonly accepted CV in the European format. This is what it looks like. So this was when I was applying to an Erasmus program, Europe Public Health, and also Infectious Disease and One Health. I actually got admitted into the Europe Public Health program. And so you could see there's a little bit of a difference where like, okay, I have my personal information, the work experience section, and then the education section where like there's much of the difference where like I had to explicitly state like some of the core courses that I did in my undergraduate degree that are relevant for the program that I was applying for. And also I even went further like to talk about like my wire clever result because of what the format of the CV required. And also there's also the additional training section, academic honors conferences, just like that. So again, please always make sure that you're tailoring to the school or the country. There are lots of samples online. And in the description of this video, I'm also going to be putting some samples of like Europass CVs and CVs from different schools in North America that you can always use and see as an example. Let's talk about mistakes that I think everyone should avoid on their CV. And number one is no fancy formatting or infographics. I know like people like to make their CV colorful with infographics, pictures, and all of that stuff. My advice would be avoid it. Just go straight to the point. Providing something simple and formal does it. Do not submit a one-page resume. Do not mistake a resume for an academic CV. So make sure that you're actually submitting a well-grounded CV that has all of these sections that I talked about. Okay, if you cannot fill every section or you do not have like relevant information for every section, pick out the sections which you have relevant information for and fill those out. Something that's very important is understanding what program or scholarship that you're applying for and knowing the key things that you're looking for in terms of experiences, in terms of skills, and making sure as much as possible that that is reflected in your CV. So for example, if you're applying for a program that has heavy focus on biostatistics and all of that stuff, you should be including in your CV at least, relevant training or courses that you've done in that area and the software and tools that you're familiar with that should be in your skills section. Make sure that you're tailoring as much as possible to the program that you're applying for. It's also important that you're reflecting the sort of language that they use in the area. So for example, let's say you're a class prefect. You wouldn't want to say class prefect. You use language like student representative. So make sure that you're using language that can be understood by whoever is reading your CV. And I can't overemphasize this enough. Always go through the school's materials to see the format or guidelines that they have for CVs and their different application materials. If you're applying for scholarships, I've talked about like my essays. I've shared my winning essay in a previous video. If you have any questions, put it in the comments. I'll be happy to answer. And in my next video, I'll be breaking down your references. So the references is a very important piece of your application. A reference can either make or break your application. So we were talking about references, and I'll be sharing with you my actual references that I use for scholarships and admissions. Remember to share with someone who's currently applying for scholarships or admission. And remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.